I want to bring in now CNN senior political analyst, Mr. John Avalon, the former White House communications director, Mr. Anthony Scaramucci, and the former Democratic presidential candidate, Dr. Andrew Yang. It's not doctor, but I just thought I would say that. Good to have all of you on this evening. Thank you so much. Andrew Yang, more than 96,000 people in the U.S. are hospitalized with the coronavirus, and that's tonight. 50 million Americans could face food insecurity in the next month. That's according to Feeding America. Is anyone in Washington trying to deal with these massive crises right now?
Well, you have gridlock that's seizing up any attempt to get cash relief or relief for small businesses out the door, where the Republicans and Democrats have been hundreds of billions of dollars apart for quite some time. I don't think anyone can hear me anymore. And
no, I can hear you.
I guess I got beamed out.
You're good.
There's a problem with the network.
John, Andrew. Okay,
out.
so we don't have Andrew Yang. So let's talk more about that, because an official with Operation Warp Speed, you know who that is, Anthony, says that 100% of Americans who want a coronavirus vaccine will have it by June. And the former congressman and Democratic presidential candidate, John Delaney, is proposing giving Americans $1,500 if they take the vaccine. What do you think of that idea?
Well, I like the idea because it'll increase the likelihood of the herd immunity. There's a lot of anti-vaxxers, a lot of misinformation about vaccine out there, Don. And I also think people need the money. I know Andrew's not on with us, but I know he would like the idea because it's sort of a form of universal basic income. And so in general, I think incentivizing people will help us get out of the crisis faster.
I want one more. Yeah. Are you there? Are you there, Andrew Yang?
Yeah, apparently I was here the whole time, Doc.
Yeah, you were. I was telling you I could hear. What do you think of the proposal of John Delaney
I
proposing
had your back, Andrew,
giving $1,500 to people who take the vaccine?
I think we should be getting money into people's hands right now, yes. But certainly it would increase adoption of the vaccine, and we're going to need to do something to stimulate trust and widespread adoption if we're going to actually be able to resume any kind of public gatherings, indoor dining, or really any form of normalcy. So I love it. I think John is onto something very important. It's common sense. Yes. If you're going to revive a $22 trillion economy, spending a few $100 million on getting adoption of the vaccine makes perfect sense.
I want you guys to respond to this. This is new reporting that was just sent from the Washington Post that Trump raises more than $150 million appealing to false election claims. It says President Trump's political operation has raised more than $150 million since Election Day using a blizzard of misleading appeals about the election to shatter fundraising records set during the campaign. That's according to people with knowledge of the contributions. You called it a grift. Anthony, I'll get your response, and I'm going to go to Andrew. Anthony?
Yeah, it was
Anthony
clear
first, and then Andrew.
Oh, me first. I'm sorry.
Andrew, imagine if that money, I'll let you respond to this, but if it went to people who actually need it. It should be raising money for people who need it. But go on, Andrew.
Now, my organization has put about $10 million into the hands of struggling American families, and we're just scratching the surface of the need, Don. So $150 million and more could certainly go a long way in small towns and communities around the country that are struggling. Here in Georgia, I will say that if you turn on the TV, you're seeing a lot of ads come in on the Republican side and the Democratic side to a lesser extent. But the money's getting spent here, and I know that in theory, at least, some of the money that Donald Trump's raising could be heading this direction as well. The stakes are very high here in Georgia.
Where there's fraud, we will hold people accountable. That's a felony. That's what I want to remind people who think they're going to move into our state and take our election.
Former Democratic presidential candidate and CNN political commentator Andrew Yang joins me now from Atlanta. Mr. Yang, thanks so much for joining us. As someone who just moved to the Peach State to campaign for the Democratic Senate candidates there, the Reverend Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff, what's your reaction to what Senator Loeffler is saying?
Well, Senator Loeffler and President Trump are trying to thread a very strange needle where they think that there's been fraud and the election's been rigged here in Georgia, but they need everyone to get out and vote on January 5th. So it's a very mixed message. On the Democratic side, there's a lot of excitement. People recognize the enormity of these Senate races, and a lot of people want Senator Loeffler to be former Senator Loeffler after January 5th. So she's definitely tied herself to President Trump, who's still very popular here in some quarters.
So I want to play for you a moment from the RNC chair. Actually, we don't have that soundbite, but the RNC chair, Ronna McDaniel, she was in Georgia this weekend. She had a stunning exchange with a supporter who asked her why Republicans should vote in the runoffs if the elections are rigged in Georgia and already decided. Again, that's echoing Trump's claims. There's absolutely no evidence to support them. McDaniel is having to persuade Republicans to vote. But as you noted, like, they're threading this strange needle where they're suggesting that there was voter fraud, but they also have to drum up urgency from their supporters. There would be no urgency if Trump actually had won, right? The Senate wouldn't even be in play. So have these claims of voter fraud backfired on Republicans?
They certainly have the potential to backfire, which would be poetic in its own way, Boris, because we all know there are no foundations for claiming voter fraud at any scale here in Georgia or in other states around the country. But right now it's a turnout game. The Democrats are certainly beating the bushes, trying to make sure that everyone who voted for Joe in November comes back to vote in January. And it is going to be a lot of energy on both sides, because the fact is, from the people here in Georgia I've spoken to, a lot of folks do not realize that there's a special election on January 5th, that they can start voting early again December 14th. So it really is an education effort that's requiring many in-person conversations and outreach for both parties.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when there's a presidential election that gets people engaged. Runoffs, you tend to have a lot less turnout typically. I want to ask you about an idea that it seems like came from a page in your book. It's from the former Maryland Congressman and presidential candidate John Delaney to pay Americans $1,500 to get a COVID-19 vaccine. You've come out in favor of this plan. Why do you think it's a good idea?
We all know that it's vital that a critical mass of Americans get vaccinated so we can return to some degree of normalcy. But we also know that there's a lot of skepticism. So we should put our money where our mouth is and say, look, if you get the vaccine, we'll give you $1,000, $1,500. We should be putting money into people's hands right now, Boris, because we're asking more and more folks to stay home and stay out of their places of employment, because coronavirus infection rates are increasing. So we should be sending money to people right now, but certainly we should be putting our money where our mouth is, where these vaccinations are concerned.
So I want to give you a chance to potentially break some news here in the CNN newsroom. President-elect Joe Biden has started to announce his cabinet picks. Do you have any word on what role you might play in a Biden administration?
I know that Joe has his pick of people. We have had some contact with the transition team, but nothing to announce just yet, Boris. Though, you know, when it happens, if it happens, it's going to happen on CNN.
All right. We appreciate that very much, and we appreciate your time as well. Thank you for joining us this Sunday. Andrew Yang, thanks for the time. Stay with CNN. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Boris.
Put the money in our hands. 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 Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.